As the world grapples with Omicron, a fresh COVID-19 variant who has described as a strain of concern, so too has Mr. Emmerson Mnangagwa's sordid tenure marked the advent of a novel, repressive and murderous variant of notorious regimes, almost in the category of Adolf Hitler's Third Reich. In the week that soccer legend Lionel Messi clinched his record-extending 7th Ballon d'Or, Mnangagwa's Emmercron variant was clinching its own macabre human trophy when known ZANU-PF thugs callously murdered Nyasha Zambingudu. Unsurprisingly, the known murderers have not been arrested. Just like Omicron, the murderous and repressive variant that is Mr. Mnangagwa has become a matter of serious concern to other sovereigns in the sub-region, in Africa and in the broader international community. Omicron, the latest COVID-19 variant, has been named after the 15th letter of the Greek alphabet. It has been the tradition of the World Health Organization to name variants after letters of the Greek alphabet because they are easier to pronounce and to communicate. For lack of a better word and for the sole purpose of rhyme, I have decided to coin and invent a toxic variant that I have dubbed Emmercron, a derivative from Mr. Mnangagwa's first name, to denote the political variant of his dispensation that has wreaked untold havoc in all sectors of the economy. As the world braces and configures how to stem Omicron, the COVID-19 variant that may hit our nation anytime now, Emmercron, the political variant, has been with us since the coup of November 2017. While Robocron, the Robert Mugabe variant, the variant that preceded the current one, was murderous and corrupt, the Emmercron variant that replaced it has proven to be even more callous and more corrupt, so as to make Mugabe's sordid tenure look like a Sunday church service. In fact, Emmercron has become a matter of serious regional concern to the extent that a freshly minted opposition party in South Africa has called for sterner measures by Pretoria and other countries in the sub-region to contain the fledgling variant that continues to pose a serious threat to peace and stability, not only in Zimbabwe, but in the entire SADC and beyond. Emmercron and Omicron bear several similarities. They are both novel variants in governance and epidemiology respectively. Both political and medical scientists are still engaged in intense scholarship to study and discover how much damage and loss of lives the two unprecedented strains could cause to their immediate geographical environment. For Zimbabwe, it's a double tragedy because we are having to deal with the two variants simultaneously, the political, Emmercron, and the medical, Omicron. Both variants have caused travel red lists. While Zimbabwe is part of the 6 countries that have been slapped with travel bans to mainland Europe and the UK, in what UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres has referred to as a form of travel apartheid, the political variant, Emmercron, has engendered its own travel ban on the People's President advocate Nelson Chamisa following his highly popular outreach programs into Zimbabwe's rural hinterland. Mnangagwa has used state security organs and ZANU-PF militia to issue a de facto travel ban on Nelson Chamisa's rural forays, resulting in the young popular leader in some cases having to use a motorbike to travel through the mountains so as to evade ED's dragnet. Indeed, blocking your political opponent from traveling to meet the people in the countryside remains a crude form of travel apartheid. Yes, in Zimbabwe, Chamisa is equally on a travel red list. The regime's unpronounced edict is that he must not engage in the politically and legally legitimate business to meet the people. Emmercron, the toxic political variant of our time, has set its own record and carved out its own dangerously unique space in several aspects of our lives. One could write a thesis on the astounding milestones that the Emmercron variant has achieved in its 4-year blood-soaked tenure. Tenets and deepening symptoms of the Emmercron variant. 1. Murder. So-called Second Republic, which in fact represents the more insidious second wave that is Emmercron, is far much more sinister than the first. The recent murder of Nyasha Zambingudu was not surprising as the Emmercron variant kicked off in bloody style in the coup of November 2017 in which several people were reportedly killed. On 1 August 2018, barely 48 hours after pilfering an electoral mandate, rogue members of the security services killed Sylvia Mafosa, 53, Gavin Dean Charles, 45, Ishmael Kumair, 41, Robert Joao, 26, Julius Chikandira, 21, and Challenge Toro, 20. The Motlanthe Commission, a probe team appointed by none other than Mr. Mnangagwa himself, concluded that the security services to which Ed is the commander-in-chief was liable for the murders. 3 years later, Mnangagwa has simply ignored the recommendations of the Motlanthe Commission to arrest and prosecute the perpetrators and to compensate the victims. A further 19 people were again killed by elements of the country's security services in January 2019. Yet again, the Zimbabwe Human Rights Commission, an independent constitutional commission, held the state responsible for the murders. This is not to mention the abductions and arbitrary arrests of journalists, civic activists and political activists such as Cecilia Chimbiri, Netsai Marova and Jonah Mamam. All in all, the more insidious Emmercron variant has left indelible footprints of blood and piles of corpses in its wake. Corruption. There has been massive corruption under this Emmercron wave, with the first family and cronies of the ruling elite as the major players of these games of avarice and sleaze. More disturbingly, all the reported cases of corruption where arrests had been made are now meeting a natural death in our captured courts. The corruption cases that began with so much noise as the regime sonorously claimed to be dealing with graft are now floundering. Only in the past week, Drax International was absolved of any blame, and a lot of people that had been fingered in that case will now go scot-free, including former Health Minister Obadiah Moyo, who is Mnangagwa's uncle. Reproduction and not production. There has generally been no investment in the productive sector in this wave of the Emmercron variant. Industrial capacity utilization has waned, and there is over 90% unemployment in the country. Instead of production, there has only been massive reproduction at the very apex of the state, where Mr. Mnangagwa is reported to officially have over 40 children. Under this Emmercron political variant, a polity must prioritize and boost not the nation's productive capacity, but their own reproductive capacity. No wonder we all have seen Kembo Moraherd texting about Viagra, while the pictures went far and wide of Ed aboard a plane partaking to cow boots, Mazondo. It's all about reproduction, and more reproduction. 4. Sex scandals. Most of Ed's children are a product of unreported sex scandals, including tragic sex scandals turned sour, such as those that resulted in a 2014 murder docket against Ed, in which his alleged girlfriend, a pastoress at Living Hope Ministries, died in mysterious circumstances at Shangani Court, off Princess Road near Divras Shopping Center in Belvedere, Harare. In fact, sex scandals have become a presidential religion. Mnangagwa's own deputy, Kembo Mahadi, had to resign after it emerged that he was having sex with married women right inside the presidential office, among other places. 5. Cronyism, clanism and villagism. In February this year, this column named over 30 people that included Mnangagwa's blood relatives, cronies, clansmen and clanswomen that he has appointed into key positions in ZANU-PF, in government and in quasi-state institutions. Cronyism and nepotism have been the hallmark of the so-called Second Republic, with Kuta Tagwarai, a key Mnangagwa ally, a pivotal player in almost all the sectors of the country's economy. 6. Drinking. As the country sinks into the abyss, the elite have been partying and drinking. There were reports of massive COVID-19 superspreader parties held at the homes of several cabinet ministers and the political elite in violation of COVID-19 protocols at the height of the pandemic during last year's festive season. Drinking and merry-making, even amid a gargantuan national crisis, have characterized this regime. Only last week, a video of a highly inebriated Ed found its way into the public domain. 7. Unconstitutional constitutional amendments. A key tenet of our dangerous political variant has been unconstitutional constitutional amendments, including the immoral extension of Chief Justice Luke Malaba's tenure that has exhaustively been written about. 8. Political masturbation. There has been a disturbing trend that I have previously branded a form of political maturation, in which Ed and his regime have accorded crude favors to themselves and their immediate families. For me, First Lady Auxilia Mnangagwa tops the list of people whose appointments and recognition violate the tenets of prudent corporate governance protocols. How does a leader give medals and appoint his own wife to several positions of influence? The First Lady is the patron of the Ministry of Health presided over by Mnangagwa's own deputy, which in itself must raise more than just eyebrows. Ed, during this year's Heroes' Day commemorations, accorded his wife a Grand Merit Award, and only 48 hours ago, we heard that our dear Auxilia had been elevated in the ZANU-PF Politburo from a deputy secretary to the substantive position of Secretary for Environment and Tourism. The Politburo has become a spousal retreat as both husband Chris and wife Monica Mtsvangwa clinch senior positions in the Politburo. Chris now speaks for the party, while wife Monica speaks for the government. The regime's combined communications strategy is now being developed and implemented from right inside the bedroom sheets of the Mtsvangwas. In between bedroom sessions, the totality of the Mnangagwa regime's 2023 electoral campaign messages will be hitting our TV screens and radios. Mugabe's wife Grace was the head of the Women's League, and perhaps the so-called new dispensation is not really new. They say the more things change, the more they remain the same. 9. Luxury amid poverty. Yet another tenet of the Emmercron variant is the unstinting pursuit of luxury, even amid grinding national poverty. As the regime criminalizes teachers' unions for prudently representing their constituency whose salaries are grossly inadequate, Mr. Mnangagwa has bought a US $18 million private jet for himself. He has been hiring a private jet 10,000 kilometers away for domestic travel here in Zimbabwe, with the massive hiring cost burdened on the poor taxpayer. Hiring a plane from 10,000 kilometers away to fly you to Bulawayo, as Mr. Mnangagwa has done in the past, just doesn't make economic sense. My uncle calls it Kufumbira Chikwereti Chipando Kagweru, driving to Gweru to recover a US $2 debt. It is much like a man in my rural hood of Dombashava would hire a taxi from Mbuma to come and ferry him from Berechina Shopping Center to Chiridzero Shopping Center, popularly known as the Showgrounds, a distance of just about 7 kilometers in the same Dombashava locality. Conclusion. I end this piece. I have argued that while the world has gone agog with what could be the devastating effects of the new COVID-19 variant Omicron, there is an equally insidious regime variant that has gripped Zimbabwe and that equally needs to be tamed before its devastating effects take root. The political variant gripping Zimbabwe that I branded Emmercron equally needs scientific research to fully understand and unpack it, and to predetermine its full ramifications when it runs its full course. In this piece, I have highlighted a few tenets and unraveling symptoms of this dangerous political variant gripping our nation-state. Both Omicron and Emmercron pose the most important threat to our lives. Jointly and severally, each absolving the other, the two variants, the medical and the political, currently constitute an immediate danger to Zimbabweans. Both variants must be decisively dealt with. The challenge for the average Zimbabwean is that, even if Omicron doesn't want to get to them, Emmercron is likely to affect them because of its vast tentacles that affect their daily lives in more ways than one. The only escape route from Emmercron is to register to vote, to mobilize the vote, to vote in our huge numbers, and ultimately to defend our vote so that it counts. The only robust way to deal with the dangerous Emmercron political variant is to institute a comprehensive electoral reform agenda that will ensure a return to legitimacy through a credible 2023 plebiscite. Only then can we achieve herd immunity against stolen elections and stop this criminal lot that is fleecing the country's resources. Indeed, we should stop this criminal lot dead in its tracks, as it appears their avowed mission is to make Zimbabwe an upper-middle kleptocracy by 2030. We have no option but to stop them. Ngapin Hake Mukamana. Luke Tamboranyoka is the Deputy Secretary for Presidential Affairs in the MDC Alliance, led by the People's President Advocate Nelson Chamisa. He is an award-winning journalist and a political scientist who won the Book Prize for Best Student when he graduated with a BSc Hons degree in political science at the University of Zimbabwe. You can interact with him on his Facebook page or on the Twitter handle @LukeTambo.